Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Ikemji, and if this is your first time of seeing my face, you're highly welcome. And to all my subscribers, I really appreciate. So in today's tutorial, we'll be learning how to make this beautiful dress you see on your screen with pleated side and a button in front. So if it's something that you've been wanting to learn for a while, then this video tutorial is definitely for you. I've been able to explain it well and in detail, step by step, to carry you along, both beginners and even those who have been in sewing for a long time. So this video is definitely for you. So take your time and engage well in the video, and let's get started. So to begin now, as you can see, I've gone ahead to draft out the lines that I'll be needing for this tutorial, which are my vertical lines, starting from my chest line, my bust line, my waist line, my hip line, and the full length of this dress alongside with the allowance for folding. So next I'm going to be doing right away is to actually determine my dart intake, because there will definitely be a dart that will run from the waist down to the full length of the dress. So to determine that, I'm going to go in by 4 inch, which I'm going to connect that on the bust line, on the waistline, and the full length of that dress, and then I will connect them together. So for me to take my dart now, I'm going to do that on the waist, which is half inch. Then I'm going to connect them together, but before that I'm going to come down by 1 inch on the bust line so that it can give that pointed parts in the bust region. So I will simply go ahead now and connect those points together towards the waistline, as you see me do in this video. So after that, now the next thing I'll go ahead to do is to actually take my body circumference, starting from my bust, which is my bust divided by 4. Whatever I get, I'm going to add 1 inch for my joining allowance. Okay, so I'll go ahead now and replicate that measurement there on my chest line. So next I'm going to be doing after that is to actually take my waist measurement, which is my waist divided by 4. Then I'm going to mark that. I'm going to add 2 inches allowance for my dart intake and my joining allowance. Then after doing that, I'm going to work on my hip line, which is my hip divided by 4. That's the next measurement. My hip divided by 4, and then whatever I get now, I'm going to add 2 inches instead of 1. I'm going to be adding 2, because there's equally a joining that is going to take place on the hip line, because you are going to slash that part open. So I'm just going to be adding another allowance for that joining. So that's why I'm adding extra 2 instead of 1. So I'm going to replicate that measurement to the full length of this dress, and I will now go ahead and connect all these points together, just as you see me do in this video. So just understand the fact that I want to be using this pattern here to cut both front and back, because they are virtually the same pattern, just a difference in the arm and in the neck in particular, and also in the front, which will be having button. So here now I'm going to be determining my armhole, and I'm going to find the midpoint of this part that I just measured. When I get the midpoint, I'm going to draw my curve line, just as you see me do. Then next I'm going to be doing now is to actually determine my neck depth, which and how I got this was that this is actually the front neck depth. Okay, so that's the first line, because I want to use it to actually cut the front and the back. That is for this pattern. So the first line I measured there, you can see I wrote down front, and this one now is back, which is 1 inch. So the width I'm working here with is actually 3 inches by width. Okay, while the neck depth for the back, which I labeled, is actually 1 inch, while for the front is 3. But we're working on the back first, which I've already created the neck. I've drawn my curve. So what I'm just going to basically do is to cut out what I'll be needing for this tutorial, especially for the back, which is the first thing we are going to take in cutting. So after doing that, this is basically what we are going to do. And the next step to do is to actually take the pleated form, which is around the hip. Now if you want your hip to actually, that pleated form to be curved, you can actually draw in your curve, like any shape you want to just give it, you can. But most times pictures that we see, we have the curve part or we have the straight. So if you want the curve, you can just come here and draw a curve line to connect to down, and you cut. But me, I want to actually cut it straight. So you can make your own curve to your own pleats to start from this hip line, or you can make it to go up. Okay, so I'm just going to cut that part out, because we're going to be working on it separately, and I'll go ahead and split this dart open. So for this pleated pattern now, I'm going to divide it into 3 segments using the slash and spread method. So I'm going to divide it into 3 equal halves, just as you see me do. So I'm using 2.5 inches to actually separate them. So once I do that at the top, I'll go ahead and connect them to the down parts. This is just me confirming the measurements. So once I'm done doing that, I'm going to label it 1, 2, and 3 so that I can place them appropriately. So I will slash that open now. And you can see that this is just an illustration of what we are trying to cut on our material. So what I'll just go and do is to actually cut exactly what we have on this bigger pattern on our material. So after doing that, I'll keep that aside so I can proceed in cutting our pleated material. And to do that, I'm going to take this slashed paper now and place them on a new pattern paper using my sellotape to gum them. So I'm just going to give a distance of 2.5 to the 3 of them, because this is actually a slash and spread method. So after doing that now, I will proceed in cutting out what I need. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut this place exactly, but on the top part I'm going to leave ½ inch because that is going to be joining the dress at the hip region. So I'm just going to give ½ inch allowance, and on this side that is going to join towards the button side, I equally left ½ inch for my joining. So this is basically what we are going to have. So you can go ahead then and have your pleated form this way. So after doing that now, you can see I'm just going to bring back the paper so you can see an illustration of what we are practically trying to achieve. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead now and cut out what we are going to be needing for our back piece. Okay, then after cutting the back, we're going to use this same pattern to actually cut the front, but there will only be a difference in the neck depth, the arm hole side, and equally the allowance that will be put in front for the button. So let's go ahead and cut for the back. So as you can see now, I've gone ahead to actually cut for the back piece, and this is just me removing the pin so you can see it. And I also left allowance at that region which we joined with the pleated form. So basically you can actually see that the back side is the one that is actually placed on fold, and if I open up now, this is basically what we're expected to have. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and proceed in cutting the front piece now. So you can see now that I've already placed my pattern paper on my material, and my material is actually placed on fold, but I'll go ahead and slash it after everything. So for the pleated part of this gown, I decided to just keep it aside for now so that we can proceed in cutting this part first. So for the front part, I left 2 inches for my button. I would advise to actually leave 3, but because of my material, I was just able to secure 2 inches. So for the neck depth now of the front, because the difference is in the neck depth, the armhole, and the allowance in front for the button. So the neck depth I'm working with is actually 2.5 for my front neck depth, okay, which I'll just create the curve there. And then over to my armhole, remember that I have the midpoint when I was cutting the back. So from that midpoint, I'm going to go in by 0.5 inch because the front armhole is usually inside, curvy kind of. So I'm just going to connect that and create my armhole to connect towards the end, just as you see me in this video. So for this section now, this is the part I'm going to be cutting out, and I'm going to extend this neck depth towards the button region. Okay, so you see all this part that I'm actually shading are the parts I'm going to cut out. Okay, and this is basically what we are going to have. So the back and the front is almost the same, just the difference in the neck, the armhole, and the allowance I kept in front for the button. So I'll proceed in cutting it. Okay, then remember to actually keep your allowance at the hip region so that you can actually use it to join your pleated material. So remember, I've already kept our allowance for our dart intake. By the time you stitch it down, it's going to replace it. And equally at the hip region, I also said there will be a joining at the hip, which is at this dart side. That's this place that I opened, that is going to be a joining there. That was why I added an allowance at the hip also. So I'm just going to open up, slash everything open. Okay, and then at this hip side, you can see that I left ½ inch allowance for my joining to the pleated dress. So while cutting the armhole, you can see that I actually came inside and down to the neckline. So this is just me actually slashing the dress open, okay, because this is actually a button dress. So I'll go ahead now and cut my pleated parts, which I have already placed the paper on my material. So I'll just go ahead now and cut out everything that I'll be needing. Okay, and then after that, this I'll simply go ahead and slash this part open because it was actually on fold. So I'll remove the pins right now, and this is basically what we have for our front illustration. And I will simply go ahead and fold this part for my button. So after hemming your button allowance, I'll go over and then pleat this down part so that I can add it to my gown. Okay, so after doing that, I'm equally going to do that same thing to the back of the dress, and this is basically what we are going to have. As you can see, I've done the button side, that's the button allowance, and also I've gone ahead to join my pleated material to the main fabric, and I equally went ahead to do that to the back, okay, to the back of the dress. So I turned the back of the front now, and this is basically what it looks like. You can see that I already marked where my dart intake is going to be. So you why take stitching this part down, ensure to actually take your dart allowance. So I'm just going to use my pin to secure that for easy stitching. So I'll do that to the other side of the front, and then I'm going to equally do that to the back as well. So basically this is what the back of the dress looks like, and I've gone ahead to join the pleated part to the main dress. I will equally go ahead and take my dart intake for the back as well to join it. So after which I am done, I'm going to hem the down part of the dress. So as you can see now, I've gone ahead to do the dart and equally hem the down part of the dress, and this is what the back look like, of which I will still go ahead and weave all those rough parts. So basically now, after doing that, I'm going to go ahead and join the shoulders together and keep that aside so that I can proceed in cutting the sleeve. So to cut my sleeve now, I went ahead to get a rectangular piece of material which I actually placed on fold this way. So while folding it, I actually made sure that it's up to 11 inches. This is what works for me, okay? So if you're a bigger person, it might be actually bigger. So here the length of my sleeve is actually 8 plus 2 inches, which is going to be for my hemming and what joining allowance. So here now, I'm going to be working with 11 inches. Now, this 11 inches is actually what works for me. It could be different for you. So now to cut my armhole, I'm going to come down by 4 inches from the beginning part of the sleeve. So I'm going to mark 4 inches here, which is the regular measurement for everybody. So I'm just going to mark 4 inches throughout this dress to the end of this sleeve, okay? Just in the width pattern. So after marking that now, I'm going to measure out 10 inches. Okay, this is what worked for me. Like I said, for somebody who is having big arm, I think 12 is actually okay for you. So from this point, I'm going to get the midpoint in this pattern. That's this slanted pattern. I'm going to get the midpoint, okay, and I'm going to mark it there and draw an inverted S to mark to that end. I'm going to link my tutorial video that explains how to actually cut a full sleeve in this video, which I'm going to provide you with the link. So to cut my round sleeve now, I'm going to say my round sleeve divided by 2 plus 1 inch for ease, and then 1 inch for my sewing allowance, and I'm just going to go ahead and connect and equally cut out. So I'll place it on the other material and also cut out what I'll be needing as well. So this is basically what I have for the sleeve. I'll equally go ahead and hem this part together, okay? So this is what the front looks like. I've equally joined the shoulders together and also hemmed the down parts. And to add the sleeve now, what I'm going to do is to actually get the midpoint of my sleeve. So I'm going to fold my sleeve into 2, get the midpoint. I'm going to notch it for both of them. And after doing that, I will open up my dress this way so that I can place my sleeve appropriately on it, ensuring that the midpoint of the sleeve and that of the dress are facing each other. And I will go ahead and use pin to secure it for easy stitching. So I'm just going to go over to the machine now and join them together, and I'll do it to the other side, okay? So after attaching the sleeve to the dress, next you will do is to actually join the piece together. Remember that we actually kept 1 inch allowance for our sewing, okay? So I'm just going to go to the machine and stitch that down together with 1 inch allowance, and this is basically what we have here. You can see that everything is already put in place and is now beautiful and clean. So next I'll go ahead to do is to put my collar, and to determine that I'm going to take my tape and measure round my neck, okay? So I'm going to take my tape now and measure round my neck, and whatever I get, that's what I'm going to be cutting my collar with. So I'm going to be cutting a double collar pattern, okay? And you can see I already have a rectangular shaped cut out, that's piece of fabric, which is equal to the measurement I just took around my neck, okay? So I'm just going to mark that, and I'll go ahead and add extra 1 inch allowance for my joining. So you must add 1 inch allowance after cutting out the measurement of your round neck on your dress. So this is for the down part because the collar has the first and the second layer. So this is the first layer that is directly attached to the shirt. Okay, that is why it has to have the same exact measurements with that of the round measurement of my what t-shirt. Okay, so plus my allowance, and the width I worked with here is actually 2 inches because there will be a joining to the t-shirt, which is the gown, and there will be a joining to what the upper part of the collar. So to cut the upper part of the collar now, what I went ahead to do is to actually fold my material into two, because this is the collar that is going to be on top. Okay, so I folded it into two, and I'm supposed to slash this part open, but when I'm done taking my measurements, I'm going to slash it open. Okay, so to cut this down part now, I'm equally going to go ahead and fold it. After folding the first one, I'm going to go ahead and fold it the second time, making the full folding. Okay, so what I'm now going to go ahead to do is to actually take the measurement of this first one, and remember that we got our round measurements of the sleeve plus our allowance, and this is what I got, which is 20. Everything here is actually 20. So for this 20 now, I'm going to deduct 2 from it because I want to cut the collar. Remember that this collar is usually shorter, a bit shorter than the main one. So I'm going to subtract by 2, which is 18. The 18 now divided by 2, I'm going to get 9, which I'm going to mark there. So the width of this collar now is actually 4 inches. Remember that the down one is actually 2, but this one here is 4 inches. And also for our collar, we usually have a slanted line at this part. Okay, our collar. So I'm just going to, at that up region, I'm going to go out by 0.5 inch, and I'm going to connect it to that down part, just as you see me doing this video. So I'm just going to carefully connect it in a slanted line, and I'm going to cut out. So after cutting it, I'll go ahead and slash that part open. If you notice me, I love to do my calculation before I do the slashing, so that I'll be very okay with everything. So this is, if you see now, they are now in pairs. So one of them, I'm just going to take them and put my hard gum, that is my gum stay, and the other one is going to be left that way. So let's go ahead and do that. So after doing that, this is basically what it looks like. I've gone ahead to put my gum, and for this down part, I folded this region by 0.5 inch, while the other ones does not have gum stay, and this up parts have the gum stay. So next I'm going to do is to actually get the curve that is usually at this part of the collar. So I'm just going to take 2 of them together, fold them, get the midpoints, ensure that they are well aligned, and on this part I'm just going to use my scissors now to cut just this area to give that defined curved region, just something small. I'm just going to cut it out, and this is basically what we are going to have. By the time you place it together, you will see that you are right there in getting your collar. So next, you take the upper part of the collar and well align them together, and I'll go ahead and stitch this part by 1/2 inch, but I'm not going to stitch this under part because that's where I'm going to bring out the collar. So you can see now that this is actually what we have gotten after folding our collar to the right side. So this place where I marked with white chalk indicates where I actually put the gum stay, and you can see that for the lower part of the collar. So what I'm going to do now is to place my collar appropriately so I can sew. So these parts that have the gum stay where I marked, I'll make sure that they are facing each other. Their right side are on top of each other. So I'm going to get the midpoints, which I've already notched. As you can see, I'm making sure that they are well aligned. And then this one that does not have any gum stay is going to be in line with the parts that did not have gum stay for the upper part of the collar. Okay, so this is just me ensuring that their midpoints, which has been notched, are aligned together. So I'm just going to use pin now to hold it down. So I'm going to do that all through, and I'm going to go ahead and sew it with 1/2 inches. And this is basically what we are going to have at the end of the day. So after we've gotten this now, the next is to attach this collar to my dress. So I'm going to get the midpoint of this collar, which I've gotten, and then get the midpoint of my dress. I'm going to mark that. After marking it, I'm going to make sure that it is well aligned with the part I have notched in the collar. That is this part that is not gummed, that does not have gum. I will make sure that they are together before I use this part that is having gum to top stitch and cover every rough edge. So this is just me using pin to actually secure it down for easy stitching. Okay, and then this part where I've already folded 1/2 inch, I'm just going to use that part now to cover it. That's why I said this part that has gum is very important for you to identify. So once I do that, this is basically what we have. So you can see everything is now neat. I have gone ahead to weave the inside of the dress. This is the collar. It's pretty, it's very neat, well, everything well aligned. And also this is what the front looks like. I've gone ahead to put the buttons and the buttonhole, and this is basically what the outfit's outcome is. Very pretty, very neat. It's definitely something that you can actually do on your own, watching this video and getting everything step by step. So if you find this video very helpful, please don't forget to subscribe, like, share to your friends who might be needing this video as well, and also turn the notification bell to get notified anytime I upload a new video in this channel. So thank you, and see you next time in my video. Bye.